Hello again! Welcome to C-Vlog. Still working out a name over here. It's day 8, and today we're going to look at how I specifically would incorporate a media text into my classroom in a specific lesson. And I would do this, the purpose of course would be to further students' critical thinking skills and engage them in an analytical lesson where we're taking something apart, we're deconstructing a media text, we're looking at the pieces, at the meaning and things like that. And as I discussed earlier, according to Dr. Roulette, critical thinking lessons work best when we utilize a text that students already know. So to that end, we'll be using Old Spice recent Smell Like a Man commercials. There's a few reasons I selected these commercials specifically. One, they're incredibly entertaining. Two, they were produced in one shot, despite what the audience might think, which leads into conventions of a commercial. And three, recently Old Spice ran a Twitter ad campaign where they responded to consumers' tweets, texts, and Facebook messages, which gives us a lot to work with. And that latest viral campaign is at the front of social media and advertising, according to the Toronto Star's article published on July 17th, written by Nicole Bowdy. And finally, 4, the ads are riddled with gender bias and hidden messages about hegemonic masculinity that students can deconstruct and won't, they'll see on the surface, won't really understand the implications of until we get further into it, which is the point of a critical analysis, really. So, in my experiences in grade 8 classroom, there's 3 things that rule. Hormones, humor, and the students themselves, the ego. And the Old Spice commercials really do incorporate all of these things. So to start the lesson off, we would have, we'd watch the commercial. I'd play it as students would enter the classroom. I'd play the video responses done over Twitter, things like that. Let the students chuckle about it, let them laugh. They probably wonder what I was up to, what's Mr. C watching now, and that's fine. Once everyone's settled sitting down, we'd play the commercial again. And remembering what our researchers said, that it's really important that students not only have a chance to engage with media text, but it's also really important that they have a chance to create their own media texts. So we have to look at how this specific media text was created, because we're using this as our modeled lesson. So we are doing gradual release here. We're going to start by instructing by modeling small groups, and our end goal will be students in pairs or on their own. And lucky for us, there's actually a number of responses about how this video was actually created that we can look at later on, or students who are more interested. So there's a fair amount of information out there because it's such a unique commercial about how it was created. There's 2 things we want to cover. One, how to create a media text, any media text. How to create a commercial specifically, but how does that process work? And second is, why do we create a media text? What is the purpose behind it? Who is it after? Depending on the class, it may be necessary to break these things up. I mean, both are going to be relatively time-consuming, and we don't want to tire students out. So make sure that we do our best job to pique student interest. If you find students, you're in your 3rd lesson in a row of how these are created, maybe switch it up, go to the why. I wouldn't advise doing this as a week block right away, all on Old Spice commercials. I think that will get tiresome. I would suggest breaking this up. Just work this into a weekly routine in your classroom. Work it in sort of, add media in regularly. Don't just do it, here's a block of media 1 week, we're never going to go back to it again, kind of like poetry. The whole idea is that media text works its way into everything, not just language as well. Anyways, I digress. So the how. As a class, what we're going to do, we're going to brainstorm about what steps it would take to create a media text. What steps does it take to create a commercial? What do we have to do to make this commercial? So hopefully your students, as they're brainstorming, will come up with the idea that we have to brainstorm to make a media commercial. We have to plan it, we have to write it, we have to script it, we have to film it, then we have to go to post-production where we have to actually edit it, add sounds, things like that. What I would then do is take each group and break them up and have each group take one of those stages. And what they would do, a little distracted by a beat there, sorry. They would be tasked with answering questions for each stage. So number 1, what would be expected of you in an advertising company for this process? So if you were working for an advertising company as a campaign organizer, what is your job? What are you going to do? 2, what are the expected norms of this stage of the process? So if you're working on brainstorming, what do you expect that the company would expect of you while you're brainstorming? And number 3, what's the purpose of that stage of the process? So why are you brainstorming? Why are you planning? Why are you writing? Why are you, what goals are you trying to achieve through these things? I would have students record these answers on chart paper and present them in the class. This should be a quick introduction. I'm hoping 5-10 minutes, 15 most, email. Then as a class, we would model what each of these stages would look like for the Old Spice commercial. So as a whole class, we're going to break down those steps, specifically modeling after this Old Spice commercial. So we're going to start, for example, with brainstorming. And, what other ideas might they have come up with before they created this Old Spice commercial, this specific one? And, we can look at the other ones. Students may have suggestions from the other ones. Rolling on the logs, kind of funny, sawing the table. I enjoyed them all. And then we're going to look at what do you think the main focus was during this brainstorm. So what was their overall goal? What did they want to accomplish through this brainstorming session, and how do you think that worked? Did it work? Didn't it work? Who knows? Then we're going to look at the conventions, what norms are there within the text, and how is that related to whatever stage you're on. So if our goal is to be funny, how is that going to relate in our brainstorm? If our goal is to be serious, how's it going to relate? How does the product relate to what we're doing is essentially what we want to look at. And we're going to continue this process for each stage of production. So we'll start with brainstorming, we'll move that on to planning. We're going to go through each stage and really break it down for students so they can really understand what happens and really model for them how this would happen, how would this process really work if we were an advertising company, essentially. For example, when we're learning how to write a script, we're actually going to break down a script and we're going to learn to write a script. How do you include stage directions? How do you include dialogue? What do I say when a guy's on a horse? How do I figure out how the guy gets to a horse? Things like that. And this is just a really great platform to discuss with students through the media what product is being sold. Okay, so why is Old Spice, why is it a funny commercial? Why didn't they go serious with Old Spice? What about this product makes it sold through humor? What other methods are they using to sell? What are they telling me about being a man through Old Spice? Why sell it that way? Things like that. By the end of this discussion, where students are really exploring the text through a modeled lesson, but with a lot of input, make sure that you're really allowing them a lot of input, because otherwise they're going to get bored. They're going to feel like they're not valued, their opinions aren't valued. We're looking at something that they enjoy, and that's the purpose of all of this, so make sure you get their opinions on it. They're marketed. This commercial's for them, so they probably have thoughts about it. Anyways, by the end of this discussion, they should really have an understanding of how a text becomes created, and should be beginning to understand why and for what purpose. They may not fully grasp that yet, and that's fine. We're going to go to that tomorrow. And although this may seem like a long process, it may seem like you're wasting class time. I hear it all the time. But really, if we want students to create a media text and we want them to understand how to create a media text, then we need to break it down for them, just like we wouldn't expect them to just write an essay. You really wouldn't expect students to write a haiku without telling them how to write a haiku. Media text needs to be the same. Too often, I feel that teachers they give students a video camera. Here you go make a video. I don't think that works. I think we need to break it down and we need to show them how to make a video before they make a video. And that's what we're doing here. That's why it's taking so long. And in the end, you're probably getting a much better product, probably be a lot more enjoyable, and students will be much more proud of their work and they'll want to show it off. Anyways, I'm wasting your time, so I will see you tomorrow.